Hey guys, I love to study and research and follow all the news and analysis that pertains specifically to creative Gen AI, but generally the entire AI industry at large, like everything pertains to like open AI drama all the way into, the latest updates in Midjourney features or, my favorite different tools, as well as like kind of the meta commentary around what's happening in the industry. Um, and, just yesterday, there was a really cool interview that dropped from Ben Affleck, and he kind of gave some really cool commentary on what he thinks about what's happening in AI and where it's going to go. And I figured, why not try to feature this because I think it's pretty interesting. Bilal Sidhu is someone that I follow regularly on AI, and so he broke it down for us here in terms of what are Ben Affleck's new points, and then we'll kind of jump into Ben Affleck's actual points. We'll listen to it together and talk about it and see if that's interesting for you guys, because I figured there's a lot to unpack here from what he said. I think he gets a lot right, but I also think there's some things that maybe there could be more to elaborate on. So from here, Bilal goes into number one, AI will shatter barriers to entry, budgets will drop, the number of movies will rise, and more voices will have access to filmmaking. I totally agree with this. Number two, AI will hammer the VFX industry. Totally agree. Or maybe expand it, honestly. Like more people will be able to do VFX, right? So what does that mean? So that's a big question. And then customized episodes on demand. I think that is going to happen, but maybe there's a lot more to elaborate there. We'll get into that. And then generative AI is replacing traditional AR filter pipelines. Just look at tools like Flux AI avatars or Peak effects. Agree as well. So let's jump into what Ben has to say, and we'll jump from there.
I want to, as we kind of wrap up here, I do want to come back to AI. Jerry, you mentioned it, but Ben, how did earlier? You guys weren't here. We did a demonstration. My colleague Andrew Sorkin and I recreated ourselves and our voices. How do you see it? I mean, is it a benefit or is it a real threat? Is it possible that a Netflix could say, we're going to do our own, James Bond thing out there with a bunch of actors that are completely recreated for this market or that market?
That's not.
First of all, I love this, this commentary. I think it's obviously the big topic in Hollywood, in Los Angeles. In my work, I often travel between San Francisco and LA, sometimes to other cities as well. But, my time is spent between these two places. I call myself monocoastal. And so I think what we're seeing here is a very different things happening in the culture, which might be obvious in hindsight, right? In San Francisco, AI is kind of seen as this inevitability that it's just going to happen anyway, and we might as well embrace it. And obviously, big tech is there. There's a lot of startups in AI. Venture capital is pushing for more AI. That's where the money is flowing. In Los Angeles, definitely there's some tech there, but there's the unions, there's the previous strike, there's the studios, there's really different dynamics coming from writers, from producers, from directors who legitimately have real fears about where this is all going, whether it's going to steal jobs. I mean, we're already seeing jobs, going through job loss in different industries, including in automated industries, in factories, robotics, manufacturing, as well as even in the tech industry itself. So we've also seen layoffs in major corporations, right? In Warner Brothers, Disney, all these Sony have had major layoffs, right? And they may or may not be related to AI. I even think in some ways there's a pandemic hangover. Like there was big tech and big industry did a lot of hiring during the pandemic, and we're kind of coming back to pre-pandemic levels. But definitely AI is an anxiety. And it fuels an anxiety around job loss, around a lot of other things that people are caring about. I mean, I think the streamers honestly are probably what caused the strike and caused a lot of the sinking in investment and the absolute change in the way money is made. Like DVDs got evaporated, theater sales got evaporated from the pandemic. Plus, people are just literally waiting for a film to be streamed rather than going to see it in the theater. And so that's a big shift, right? And I think AI just comes right on the back of that and fuels all this anxiety that people in Hollywood and the creative industries are legitimately feeling. I mean, if you came into this 2 years ago with the ability for DALL-E and Midjourney to create any type of image and even looking like a lot of artists' imagery, I get the anxiety and I get almost like the hate and the anti-AI because, hey, it could be stealing stuff and this is possibly not correct, not right. And the legality, the regulation around that is still being worked out. Anyway, so I like where this is going right off the start, and Ben's right on top of it, right?
Possible now. B, will it be possible in the future? Highly unlikely. C, movies that will be one of the last things, if everything gets replaced, to be replaced by AI.
So that's interesting. That's his first point, really, is movies will not be disrupted by AI. Obviously, he's biased. He's a huge producer and director and actor. But I tend to agree with him here. Like, taste, right? And the ability to produce something that is touching, that has a very clear narrative, that requires hundreds, if not thousands of people to work on, and a marketing budget, etc. Like, how is AI actually going to disrupt that entire process of development to production to distribution, right? It's just not happening.
AI can write you excellent imitative verse that sounds Elizabethan. It cannot write you Shakespeare. The function of having 2 actors or 3 or 4 actors in a room and the taste to discern.
That's interesting here that he said AI cannot write Shakespeare. And I think that's true. I think that, to a certain extent at least, that AI will have the ability to clone or to almost like be at the level of where humanity is at, because it's being trained on data from humanity. Now, here's where I'm not sure if I totally agree, which is that, are we around the corner from major innovations of how we think about reasoning and creativity with respect to AI? I mean, hallucination itself is an interesting word, first of all, to use with respect to when AI doesn't get things right, it hallucinates. But when we're talking about people who, jump into Midjourney, for example, like if I'm in Midjourney, and I jump into Midjourney, and sometimes like, look, I just did this rabbit thing for another video, and maybe what I like about this video is where it put this pot, and maybe this inspires me to think about, hey, the rabbit eating, the plant from this pot, and now I'm off to the races in a whole another creative direction. Now, my question is, can we program an AI to recognize, hey, maybe I can try something else. Maybe I can iterate 100 times, 1,000 times, and come up with more examples of what to play with, right? And I think that's where, when I think about something like chess, right, or Go, in the scenario where Lee Sedol felt that the AI was doing something different when it made this kind of weird move, right? So this is this famous move AlphaGo made, right? So it was this, actually, I'm not even sure which one it is, but, this one move in which the AI made this kind of strange move, and he called it like this Hand of God move. Hand of God move 78, right? Let's see if I can even find it here. Move 78, right? So here, do we have the actual image of 78? Here, so move 78, I suppose. I don't know anything about, I don't know Go that well, but is there something here? Maybe there was a battle going over in this corner, and the AI decided to go move 78, and for some reason, Lee Sedol saw that as something innovative from the AI side of things. Will there come a moment, I guess this is my question to Ben Affleck and everybody who might agree with him in this case, will there come a moment where people will see something that AI genuinely created, some creative idea that it created, and will think, wow, that is something Shakespearean even, right? Because in my opinion, when we look at like human creativity and human brilliance, right? If we look at even, great Nobel Prize winners, was that that behavioral economics economist, what's his name? Richard Thaler, right? Like he was kind of interesting because he was cross-pollinating different areas of science, right, to come up with his theories and understand his theories, because he was diving deep into another area. And don't quote me on all of this, but I guess the point I'm making here is that this cross-pollination, right, especially amongst creatives and academics, you have this scenario where great minds, in my opinion, come out of a moment of convergence, right? Where, let's say that Einstein is sitting in a patent office, or Newton is looking at an apple fall down, or whatever it is, right? I guess the question here is, can you engineer a scenario where AI can have these convergences, where synthesis does create something new, where if I give AI all of film and I say, hey, bring your mind of film and throw it at biology, and then come up with weird, unique ideas out of that, can, as a result, it achieve certain creative levels that are maybe near Shakespearean in level, right? Because my sense is that Shakespeare even comes out of an era in which maybe the English language is reaching a certain apex, where theater is reaching a certain apex. Shakespeare's arriving into this moment. He's also a product, not just his own genius or brilliance. It's that he is a product of those things and that insight that comes out of that. So my question is that possible? I think it might be. I really do. And I think that we are going to be able to remix that. We're going to be able to not just remix content, but remix AI's ability to synthesize, to be creative, to hallucinate. We'll take advantage of that hallucination.
And construct that is something that currently entirely eludes AI's capability, and I think will for a meaningful period of time. What AI is
The big caveat from Ben here is a meaningful period of time, right?
going to do is going to disintermediate the more laborious, less creative, and more costly aspects of filmmaking that will allow costs to be brought down, that will lower the barrier to entry, that will allow more voices to be heard, that will make it easier for the people who want to make Goodwill Huntings to go out and make it.
Now, this I completely agree with Ben, right? Like, he's saying that the cost will go down, definitely with things like previs, brainstorming, ideation, development, even reading scripts, even producing short films and trailers and all of that to create a whole plethora of new types of content that is coming rapidly, if not already here.
Look, AI is a craftsman at best. Craftsmen can learn to, make stickly furniture by sitting down next to somebody and seeing what their technique is and imitating. That's how large video models, large language models, basically work. A library of vectors of meaning and transformers that interpret context, right? But they're just cross-pollinating things that exist. Nothing new is created.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. And really, in order to do that, look, craftsmen...
It's a great point and a great kind of interruption here. The cross-pollination. That's exactly what I was saying earlier, right? Like, we're going to get to a place where we can have AI cross-pollinating at scale, right? In, millions of ways. And what kind of creativity or whatever, how we define creativity in that future comes out of that, it's really going to be interesting.
Is knowing how to work. Art is knowing when to stop. And I think knowing when to stop is going to be a very difficult thing for AI to learn because it's taste. And also, lack of consistency, lack of controls, lack of quality. AI for this world.
Let's go back here.
And I think craftsman is knowing how to work. Art is knowing when to stop. And I think knowing when to stop is going to be a very difficult thing for AI to learn because it's taste. And
I freaking love that. And, Ben Affleck is amazing for having that major insight so well articulated. And I think that that's probably going to be true for a very long time to come. Because even if, like I'm saying, even if we could get AI to create something on a Shakespearean level, who is going to be the one to be able to judge or select that is representative of something that is relevant for today? Big question, right? Like, who made Gangnam Style, right? Like, it was the tastemakers along the way that selected Gangnam Style to be what it is, right? And so I think this is super salient point. No notes.
And also, lack of consistency, lack of controls, lack of quality. AI for this world of generative video is going to do key things more and more. I wouldn't like to be in the visual effects business. They're in trouble because what costs a lot of money is now going to cost a lot less. And it's going to hammer that space, and it already is. And maybe it shouldn't take 1,000 people to render something, but it's not going to replace human beings.
Now, see, this is where I think it's interesting because I wonder genuinely if how we think about things like animation as a genre is going to explode. Like the same way that we see TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram Reels and even YouTube Shorts and just YouTube in general. Like how did these platforms allow for there to be millions of creators all around the world and for us to ingest millions of types of, cultural memes from all around the world all at the same time? It, in my opinion, has enriched us in ways that are kind of hard to explain and categorize. At the same time, kind of made us all cosmopolitan in a certain way. and at the same time kind of ruined us because of the algorithms, etc. But it did give us kind of like this whole new layer of interacting. And I think that with animation, with VFX, what we might see is the ability for, millions, billions of people to be able to create their own animated series, and that to be representative of their cultures. And so it might not be what Ben Affleck, it might be like what he's saying is it's going to ruin the immediate Hollywood industry, and the VFX universe is there and animation there, but it might unlock, millions of or thousands of animation studios around the world, which is exciting.
Making films, it may make your background more convincing. It can change the color of your shirt. It can fix mistakes that you've made. It can make it, you might be able to get 2 seasons of House of the Dragon in a year instead of 1. And if that happens, according to macroeconomics, in cultures where there are basically oligopolies competing, what should happen is with the same demand and the same spend is they should just make more shows, which should, you should have the same spend and now you can just watch more episodes. And eventually AI will allow you to ask for your own episode of Succession, where you could say, I'll pay $30 and can you make me a 45-minute episode where like Kendall gets the company and runs off and has an affair with Stewie. And it'll do it. And it'll be a little janky and a little bit weird, but it'll know their stats, it'll know those actors, and it will, remix it in effect.
Right.
And
I think this is totally true and probably even more scalable than what he's suggesting here. Like, it might be the scenario where, hey, I'm creating like Stewie and it's a game now, it's a film, it's a comic book, it's merchandise, it's all of these things that I can do. I can be a part of it. I can also create an avatar, like he's about to say, and, become these characters and, use their voices and et cetera, et cetera. Like, that is going to go multimodal, multi-medium, in all these different ways, which are near impossible to predict.
it will do that. That's the value, in my view, long-term of AI for consumers, which is eventually my hope for AI is that it's an additional revenue stream that can replace DVD, which took 15 to 20% out of the economy of filmmaking, which is, and there should be negotiated rights and residual rights to say, if you want to, because what do people want to make 5-minute, 30-second TikTok videos where they look like the Avengers? Well, great. You can, just like you used to be able to buy your Iron Man costume at the store, you're going to buy your Iron Man pack and you and your buddies are going to look like Iron Man and Hawkeye, like, on Twitch. That's what's going to really happen.
I want to, as we kind of...
And there should be negotiated rights and revenue stream that can really, my hope for AI is that it's an additional revenue stream.
Now, this is where I agree with Ben Affleck, and I'm really curious, like, if that's actually going to happen, right? Because I really do hope that AI does provide a new revenue stream for people. I think, like I mentioned earlier, like DVDs and all of that, like that's theater, and DVDs have completely been skewered by streaming and this new generation of content, etc. So what does the future look like? Is it a combination of merch and, Patreon and, TikTok remixes, as he's suggesting here? I hope so. Right. And I hope, and that is going to, have to pay for the GPU cost as well and the energy costs of doing all of that. But at the same time, like, I do want to see a world in which not only is more creativity unlocked for these brands, but also unlocked for the average consumer, where they can interact with these brands in new ways. Now, obviously, Ben has a very Hollywood perspective, and he comes from, a very intense pedigree of producing and directing and the film industry. And so he has that kind of slant on the perspective. And I think it's really important. And I do wonder what comes next after this outside of Hollywood, because Hollywood is not the only prism that is going to be impacted by AI and creative AI in particular. So that has been awesome to get into. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll jump into our next something soon. There's so much coming out there, and I'm going to cover it all. So keep following us, because I'm going to be devouring all this content that's out there. It is moving so fast. It's hard to really keep up, and I just want to feature it all and commentate on it all and really learn from you guys, as well as learn from all these people like Ben Affleck and other folks who also disagree with this space, like disagree with AI, because I really want to kind of use this YouTube channel, honestly, to kind of digest what's happening in the industry. So thanks so much, guys, and see you soon.